And it does look abandoned. I walk past it whenever I go to Osaka, and it doesn't look like a building one should set foot in. And it smells quite bad down the basement floor if you ever go down there.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast, probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host Chris Broad, we're joined as always by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. Pete Donaldson himself. Pete, how the devil are you doing? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling warm in my little 6 a.m. studio down the end of my garden. The dogs are barking outside. The birds are singing. There's a squirrel that's running around on the roof of my building, which I can hear, and it's actually quite annoying. I don't know if you can hear that on the microphone, but there's a squirrel sort of dancing. The dawn chorus is very much birds, dogs barking, and a squirrel dancing on my cabin.
I mean, that sounds fucking idyllic, like Dr. Dolittle.
Magical.
I get like 800 sirens, screaming school children, a billion cars. I can't say living in Tokyo, you know, the sounds of Tokyo are quite bleak and quite annoying.
Yeah.
Especially...
Well, I've sort of went from like living right in the centre of London. I lived on Old Compton Street, which is very loud. And I always sort of say that it gave me some real sort of life skills that I know. It's a big sort of entertainment district. It's like, you know, very busy and very. I mean, it's the gay streets where all the gay bars are. But it always kind of, I could always tell what was happening in a fight, if you know what I mean. Like, if there's a fight going on, you want to watch the fight
naturally.
But I could kind of like disseminate, because people were shouting and fighting all the time outside my room, outside my house, and I could sort of figure out, right, if I can hear shouting and sort of pushing, it was never going to, you know, descend into a fight. But if I could hear proper like clunks, the sound of wet flesh, and just those kind of noises, it was a fight worth sticking your head out the window. A smashed wine bottle, fight. Nothing like, if it's just shouting, you're not going to see anything. So it's really good stuff.
It's almost like a Daredevil-esque superpower, isn't it? Pete can like hear. He knows if a fight's happening or not without seeing it.
Do you not think that like it would be a lovely kind of little side mission of like, you know, those Yakuza games where you're just constantly running through, you know, Akihabara or, you know, Shinjuku or whatever, and on every corner somebody wants to fight you, and there's always like a scuffle. It would be a lovely kind of like perspective to see, like, from like trying to administer in a video game, trying to administer a fight from over the shoulder of somebody in an adjoining apartment who's looking out of the window. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just sort of see people like talking about the fight, and you're in the sort of background having a scrap.
It does sound.
Why has nobody ever done that? For crying out loud?
It sounds lovely. Yeah, it's a very atmospheric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But do you prefer the sounds of nature now to the sounds of battle cries in the streets of Soho?
No, Fox is fucking not a nice sound. That's very much the thing that you hear more often than not around here. And you occasionally see a badger. Saw a badger once last year. That was quite exciting. Badgers are big, aren't they? I mean, I know they're our apex predator, which is pathetic on our half. But yeah, they are big old lads, aren't they?
I mean, I used to get... foxes do make weird noises. As somebody who went to Fox Village, I remember the cries of the fox. But, like, I used to get woken up by a hawk, and that was kind of annoying at the time. Kind of...
Good morning, Chris!
It also be Argo out of Aladdin. It was it just made like it was kind of annoying, but also nice. And now I would give anything to have that hawk back over the sounds of 800 sirens.
Crows are quite big, aren't they?
No,
honestly, in Japan, they're everywhere.
When you mentioned squirrels a minute ago, I realised I don't think I've ever seen a squirrel in Japan. I looked it up. Does Japan have squirrels? And it does have, apparently, the Japanese dwarf flying squirrel, which is the coolest sounding squirrel. And apparently, during the day, the squirrel hides in a hole, usually in a coniferous tree, emerging at night to feed. And contrary to its name, it cannot actually fly, which I was disappointed to
Can it glide?
No. It could do nothing. It just sits in a tree. Okay. That's probably why I haven't seen the fucking thing in 12 years living in Japan. Squirrels aside, we've got a story this week. What a fucking weird podcast this has been so far. We've learned a lot about animals, though, and that's the important thing. Martin from Chorlton, which doesn't sound like a real place. It sounds like an American that's like made up somewhere in North England. Cholton? Do you know what that is? Is that real? It must be real.
Cholton on the Wheel, isn't it? Cholton on the Wheel. It's
not
northwest. It's near Stockport, I believe.
North England is a place of magic. It really is. Dear Chris and Pete, my sister and I have just come back from 2 weeks in Japan, eating and drinking our way through the various towns and cities. During our expeditions in Osaka, we found a building that looked like an abandoned block of flats covered with loose wiring and graffiti. It caught our attention, though, as we noticed a number of people making their way up the grubby stairs, disappearing from view. I know this fucking building. I know it. It's where we went for our video in Osaka.
Okay.
We followed suit, and within the building we discovered dozens of tiny bars, all adorned with their own neon signs and intricately decorated doors. After much exploration, we settled on a bar called Encount, and upon entering we were welcomed by a friendly Japanese host and his walls of old Famicom games and shelf upon shelf of classic consoles. This must be where we went in our video, our Things to Do in Osaka Nightlife video. Because I've never found this place ever again. It's like the Room of Requirement from Harry Potter. It sort of appears when you need it, and then you just can't find it again. We spent the rest of the evening playing and drinking the night away, with our host helpfully navigating us through Japanese game menus and ensuring we could get the two-player modes working. That evening, on return to our hotel, I wanted to ensure we hadn't missed anything. So I looked up Chris's videos of Things to Do in Osaka and what to see in the video, and the same wall of Famicom games and shelves of retro consoles appeared, and there it is. It was a weird experience seeing the two of you playing Bomberman in the same bar where we had been drinking just a few hours prior, and the experience solidified for me the idea of exploring little-known backstreets and buildings and seeing where the night takes you. Have either of you discovered any cool new hangout spots in the UK or Japan that you can share with us? Keep up the good work, Martin from Cholton.
Oh, Cholton.
That's beautiful.
Cholton.
I've actually never been back to the bar in our video because I thought it had gone. And because we went in 2018, and then I think there was a crackdown on video game bars in Japan because Nintendo doesn't like when people do things with Nintendo. And so it's good to hear it's still there and it exists. And now we have a name.
How embarrassing! Martin was in the same bar where I destroyed you at Bomberman.
Fuck off! You didn't win. You didn't win. I remember.
I don't remember. It was a long time ago, Chris. I don't really remember.
Stop the podcast. Go back. Go and watch Osaka, Born Japan. Watch me destroy Pete Donaldson at Bomberman. It was the highlight of Journey Across Japan.
I don't actually like games about bombs. I'm actually a bit of a pacifist, so you do you, Chris. But I don't think that's very fair. It's that was a real shame, I think, because it's such a. I think whenever I'm in like a new city, it's actually quite a nice thing. Even though like arcade machines and arcade bars are quite fun, but they are quite sort of growing up in like the 90s and stuff. You do sort of look back and sort of go, God, these were so exciting back in the day, these video games. But nowadays they're a bit, it's just a bit like I'm not really excited by them anymore because I'm very childish like that. But the arcade bars and stuff in Japan are the little kind of like home system bars you get in Japan are really fun because they're like. There's versions of games you've never seen before, and also like systems you've never seen before. I spent most of my time in that bar just looking and segoying at
I remember
old like sort of PC engines and stuff, and like they were like systems we never got over in the UK or the US and stuff. So it's a really nice and there's always like just figurines and bits of tat that pepper the bars. It's really good stuff. Really, if you can find yourself a little sort of video game bar, you can spend the whole night just pissing about on their system. It's brilliant stuff. It really is.
But they do go under the radar, and many of them don't want to be publicised. And I remember we said we wouldn't publicise that place, so we put it in the video, but we didn't ever link it anywhere because out of respect. And if these bars get too much attention, they could get under fire from Nintendo and various sort of companies. So across the board, whether it's Tokyo or Osaka, these video game bars go under the radar, and that's half the charm of discovering them, as Martin did here. That building, I think it's quite centrally. It's like near Dotonbori Bridge. You just got to go off some beaten tracks. And the building itself, it's got like 200 bars in it across like 4 or 5 floors, and it does look abandoned. I walk past it whenever I go to Osaka, and it doesn't look like a building one should set foot in. And it smells quite bad down the basement floor if you ever go down there. But my God, as a, if you're a photographer, find that building, because you will be in for a real treat when you do. And above all, go and watch the video where I destroyed Pete Donaldson at Bomberman. Forever in infamy. Forever in infamy. But on the subject of destruction, is Japan's social hierarchy being destroyed? Segue there. Are Japan's kind of pact with the people? Is it going under? Apparently, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It was always the case growing up in Japan that you'd get a job for life, and the company would look after you. You would work hard. Too hard, some might say. Usually 6 days a week from fucking 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. But you would get a job for life, and they would look after you. And that kind of ended in the 90s and went downhill after the bubble burst. But now companies are looking at new ways to kind of benefit employees. And what's going on with Toyota, Pete? What's this 4-day work week I'm hearing about? Something I can scarcely believe I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll I guess future sort of work historians, if indeed there are people like that, labour historians will look back at the last sort of 5-6 years in the world and sort of say, well, it can't just have been about COVID. It must just have been about, teleworking practices and technology coming along and people sort of demanding a little bit more from their kind of mental health, I think. But Toyota... I'm I'm a Toyota man myself. Stop eating your Tang Fast Sticks, for crying out loud.
Oh, no,
How long have you been bashing on? Where did you get that bag you bought from the UK? Has been going for bloody ages, for crying out loud.
Sitting here on the ramen shop counter for like a week now.
You couldn't resist it. It was calling you, for crying out loud. Anyway, Toyota. Toyota are planning to introduce a new work system this year that will allow some staff, clerical and technical employees, to take 3 days off in a week. The new system is intended to increase employees' motivation and also keep skilled workers on staff by allowing them to choose their working days at their discretion. Basically just providing a little bit of flexibility to staff, though their total working time and salary levels will not be changed. Toyota uses a flexi-time system in which working times are staggered but are set at a minimum of 2 hours per day. The new system will just throw that all in the bin and instead will allow people to just work longer hours on some days so they can have more days off while maintaining the same total of working hours, if that makes sense. So if you've got days where you think you can sort of like pile through more work, feel free, but we'll expect a bit of free time in reserve. So the new system will mainly apply to clerical positions such as sales, as well as technical positions such as quality control. So that sounds very much like the people on the actual assembly line will not be offered this particular thing, and as always, the blue collar workers get fucked over. Companies, particularly major corporations, are increasingly introducing systems that will allow employees to take 3 or more days off a week if they wish, while placing more focus on performance, which it should always have been. Shouldn't it, really? Yes, it should. This story's a lot less interesting than I thought it would be, and I want to I want to eat Haribo now. Look, I would say, like, when it comes to Japanese companies, corporations, I've never seen a company in Japan like adapt nice, flexible work weeks that actually are good. To this day, I still haven't met many folks working in Japan who've worked for a Japanese company and got many good things to say when it comes to the work hours. And this almost feels as well that this could be like a clever bit of PR, a nice PR stunt for Toyota, given they've had a bit of a bumpy year. What with them, cheating on certain certification tests and whatnot. Like, but look, we might have rigged the certification test, but look, it's a 4-day work week. Look at that over there. It feels a bit like that. That's all it is, though, isn't it? It sounds like sort of good news for a company who I imagine some of these people may have share interests in the company, so it's probably sort of going, can you not, we are giving you a better working life, can you not sell your shares, please? because the chairman, Toyoda Akio's got a bit of a, he's got a hell of a salary, $10 million a year, in the middle of what can only be described as a bit of a hellish year for the company because, they admitted to cheating on was it emissions tests and stuff? It seemed to be, it's safety tests, wasn't it? They had a bit of wonky data in there. There's not a day goes by where I don't get an email about diesel certification because there was a lot of like diesel like tests falsified back in the day, and if you've ever owned a diesel car in the UK, loads of like kind of ambulance chasing lawyers trying to get hold of you to join their class action suit, if indeed we have those in the UK, and so I do look at that and sort of go, I had a diesel car, I could probably make a bit of money out of that, couldn't I? I don't know.
I feel like there's always some sort of bloody scandal. Like Toyota owns Daihatsu, and Daihatsu are the ones that rigged all their cars and kind of destroyed their brand overnight last year. Toyota own everything. I forget Toyota owns like every other car company in some way, shape or form. But yeah, I don't know, it just feels like a non-story, really. Like, the staff get a fucking hour off. It's like Abroad in Japan beats his editors with a stick. But don't worry, he gives them some Tang Fast sticks as well. Like, a free bag of Tang Fast sticks. And I have eaten them all. I have eaten all the Tang Fast sticks. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's tough. It's tough working in Japan.
But Toyota is like so important to the fabric of society in Japan. It's hard to overstate how important they are to just the general economy. They are a huge global brand. Lexus, Toyota, all of the other ones. It's like it's insanely kind of far-reaching, this kind of effect.
And they're still Japan's biggest company, actually, by quite a wide margin, I think, by market cap. Yeah. Like they are a massive company, and their cars are good. So whenever Con and I go on a wacky weekend, we joke that we rent a Toyota, like what's the Toyota Yaris? We always get like a Toyota Yaris because it's cheaper, it gets the job done. So Toyota are a good car company. Daihatsu, not so much. And just because they own them, doesn't mean they're necessarily entirely responsible for all the misgivings and things that have gone on at Daihatsu. But Toyota are important. Toyota are very important. But I just feel like more flexible work schedules are not going to boost worker motivation, really. But I suppose it's a step in the right direction, right? They've got to start somewhere. But Japan did a good job with the whole working from home thing during COVID. But I feel like it's very much just back to normal now. That was never going to hold long. Yeah. And from what I've seen, and I need to check the numbers and statistics on this, I do suspect it's business as usual, everything's back to normal. In a way that I don't feel we have in the UK. I feel like a lot of people do still work from home after COVID. Yeah. But obviously that's what I think, in my opinion. I should probably go and check that out and dig a bit deeper. But from what I've seen, that seems to be the case. But I still, when people come and move to Japan, outside of English teaching, I still advise them to not work for a Japanese company if they can. Try and work for a foreign company in Japan because you'll find the work hours are a lot less absurd, and the work culture is a lot less extreme than it is here, where people don't have a very good work-life balance at all. So bear that in mind. We'll be back in just a moment, guys, with your stories, comments and questions over in the fax machine.
Wow.
And we're back with the fax machine. What do we got this week from our listeners, Mr. Donaldson?
Listener number one has got in touch. Chris from London and Sydney. Hello, precocious Pete and carnivorous Chris. I would like to ask, what is your top 3 recommended hotels Ryokan to stay in while in Japan? Flexible with location as long as it's a unique experience, preferably with a view or an onsen. Many thanks and love your videos. Chris from London and Sydney. Any recommendations, Christopher?
I mean, rather than individual ryokans, I'd say towns. I mean, first of all, one ryokan I do recommend is the one I filmed last year, Takinami Hot Spring, right? And they're really awesome. That's in South Yamagata. You can get there like 2 hours by bullet train. The owner's really nice. Every room has like a bath in it, and the food is some of the best food I've had in Japan. That place ticks all the boxes, and that's what you want for ryokan, isn't it? You want a nice big private outdoor bath. You want a nice meal. Yeah. Kusatsu is quite nice, the old hot spring town up in the mountains of Gunma. And where else, Pete? You've got to throw one in throw one of your recommendations in?
Shibuya Hotel
Shibuya.
Sakura. It's cheap, it's affordable. It's got a coffee shop built in, I believe, and it's just a nice sort of little boutique kind of studenty hotel. It's good stuff. I've stayed there loads of times, and if I'm not staying in an Airbnb in Shibuya, which have got quite expensive over the years, Hotel Sakura is a really good little sort of midpoint kind of like boutique hotel.
But does it have a bath? Does it have a public bath?
No, it doesn't have an onsen. No, it doesn't have anything.
Remember, you stayed in one in Sapporo. It was like the Dormy Inn, and that had a bath, did it not?
Dormy Inns sometimes have. I think there's one in Osaka. I think has a Dormy Inn has a little onsen built in. I mean, it's not very nice, but it's It's got a very cold bath, a very hot bath, and what more do you need?
I don't think it's a onsen per se. It's not like hot spring water. It's just a big room with water in. It's just like a big old public bar. But Kandeo hotels are quite good if you want they always have like a tower block, and they have like a outdoor bath on the roof, whether it's Roppongi or wherever. So yeah, Kandeo hotels are good for that. But Kusatsu, bits of Yonezawa, job done. We got one here from Matt who says, "Hello Crystal, Chris and Platinum and Pete. I'm planning to go back to Japan next November, this time to propose to my boyfriend. I wouldn't do anything flashy, as it isn't my style, but I'm nervous that even a simple proposal somewhere public might be frowned upon. How are gay relationships perceived in Japan? Should I aim for a private moment, or is it okay to get down on one knee somewhere more public? All the best, Matthew." I don't think it'll be frowned upon at all. I think he might arouse curiosity, but that's pretty much it. And it won't be awkward.
Awesome. I mean, who's gonna? No matter what's going on with the gender interaction, like seeing somebody propose is such a lovely thing. Bloody brilliant.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, don't let that get in the way of it. You just got to choose the best location you can. And I honestly, I don't know. When I proposed to Charla last year, I did it in the UK, to be fair. But I didn't really know where I would have done it in Japan if I had the chance. And I still don't know where I would do it. Shibuya Crossing, innit? In the middle of Shibuya Crossing. At the high tide.
In the onsen, in the Hotel Dormy Inn, obviously. Crying out loud.
In the Dormy Inn. Fucking hell. Please choose a better placemat than the Dormy Inn or Shibuya Crossing. Best of luck to you, though. Good luck. Hope your boyfriend doesn't listen, because... spoilers, could be. I don't know how many gay listeners we have called Matt, so let's hope.
Yeah, good point.
Let's just hope he's not listening. Or you've chosen a fake name. One here from Tyler, who says, "Hello, Chiba Chris from Portsmouth, Pete. My girlfriend and I are finally taking our first trip." Portsmouth, Pete? Why Portsmouth? Taking our first trip to Japan in mid-September. We're planning a classic 11-day golden route trip, but are wondering if we should avoid staying in Kyoto right now because of the over-tourism. Is it really that bad? We were thinking of spending the second portion of our trip in Osaka and taking day trips from there because it seems like the larger city is better able to handle the influx of tourists. What do you think? Cheers from the Sphere in Las Vegas, Tyler. The Sphere looks cool, doesn't it? Recently got banned from happening in London, if I recall. No Sphere for London.
Oh, really? What? We don't want our own Sphere?
Yeah, and I kind of get it in some respects. That we're going to build it in Stratford. It was going to blind the thousands of people that live there. We're talking about the big Sphere that has like a screen on it in Las Vegas, which looks incredible.
I'm familiar, yeah.
I'd love to go and see it. But maybe it's for the best. They didn't build it in Stratford. Shame they couldn't build it.
Not energy efficient, you would imagine. It's probably not the most energy efficient thing.
You think they could have built it somewhere, maybe near the Dome, near the O2 Arena. But
I just think, just get it out of London. But obviously the eyes aren't there for the advertisers, I guess. I think with... could you not just build it like surrounding the O2? Could that not be an augmentation that we could sort of install?
Mega size,
like around the O2, like a mega screen around it.
That would be cool. Thinking outside the box, I like it, Pete.
Exactly, outside the globe.
On the subject of Kyoto, I recently got back from there from video that's out now. In the future, while I'm recording, but it's out now for you, the listener, and it's about this very subject. And the conclusion was Kyoto's all right. It's busy. Actually, the conclusion was, don't go to Kyoto on the weekend, because on the weekend it's fucked, because you have all the domestic tourists in Japan. Everyone in Japan travels the weekend, and you also have overseas tourists from neighbouring countries like South Korea, China, Taiwan. They all pop over at the weekend. So the weekend, mega busy. The weekday, when we went on a Wednesday, it was actually pretty all right. It was busy, but not too bad. And one thing I will say is we stayed at the hotel, and the hotel was full, and we couldn't have breakfast in the morning, which was a little bit rubbish. They just said, you can't have breakfast tomorrow, it's too busy. And I was like, what the fuck? I paid for breakfast. And they're like, too busy, innit? No breakfast for you. So just be careful where you book, shall we say. But, a good friend of mine, Ali, who we had on the podcast a couple of months ago, he went to Kyoto at the height of Kyoto, in cherry blossom season. And he said it was busy, but he had an amazing time and he really enjoyed it. And I think that's the main thing.
Right.
So I would still say go to Kyoto if you've never been before. It's your first trip, as you said, and I still recommend Kyoto as a place to go. You've got to see it one time.
My partner loved Kyoto. It was very much her speed, I think. She doesn't really like tech and stuff like that, but she absolutely adored Kyoto, even in its kind of quite touristy state.
It's touristy, but you can still enjoy it. And the trick is, as well, get up early. Get up quite early and see things, and you'll find the crowds don't really get at their peak until sort of 1 p.m. till 3 p.m. So bear that in mind. But have a good one, Tyler. All the best. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming through to abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back later in the week, guys, to do it all over again. But for now, have yourself a great few days, and we'll see you right back here to do it all over again on the Abroad Japan Podcast. Bye for now.